Good morning. Welcome to Conversations at the Corner. This is a brand new month, and it's literally a brand new month. Today is Wednesday, July the 1st. So welcome to July. Welcome to episode 76. Welcome to you, Pastor Nathan.
All right. Welcome back.
Well, thank you. Thank you. This month of July is different for the podcast, but also for our nation. This is the month that we celebrate 250 years as a nation. And so, Pastor Nathan, the questions of the month this month are kind of all related to that. So Here is the question of the day for today, July 1st.
Okay.
Kind of thinking about the nation's birthday this coming weekend, 250 for the nation. You and I are considerably younger than that.
Mm-hmm.
But what is a birthday gift that you remember? Something that sticks out in your mind. It could be a practical thing or a fun thing or whatever. But as we celebrate the nation's birthday, what's a birthday gift you've gotten that you remember?
Oh, okay. Oh boy. So I think So there's a bunch of different ones. You know, when I was a kid, I would ask for like a new video game or maybe some CDs or books or different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So and those all kind of run together a little bit. Not that any of them were bad. They were all good gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the types of things that I would typically ask for. I do think, if I remember correctly, I want to say it would be either in my 5th or 6th grade year, I think I got like a stereo.
Okay.
It had like a CD player and a tape deck and all this stuff. And I think that was really cool to get.
Okay.
One that I always remember, I don't know if anybody's really going to care about this, but we haven't done this in a long time, but some of my cousins and I would exchange gifts, more like in our early 20s. We were still doing that as it eventually faded out.
Right.
But I remember one year I asked for a Willie Nelson album from my cousin, Heather.
Okay.
And I don't think that she listens to Willie Nelson or anything like that. It's called Phases and Stages. And it's kind of like this story of a breakup, but it's from one half of the album is from the woman's perspective, and the second half of the album is from the man's perspective.
That's kind of cool.
It's interesting. It's sad. Like, it's not cool.
Yeah. Well, it's country music.
It's country music.
Yeah.
But it ended up being one of my favorite albums. And I remember just thinking, like, I kind of asked for that randomly. Like, I had not heard the album before. I knew that it was kind of one of his better albums. I hadn't even heard it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I guess the stereo, though, is probably the one that I really remember as a kid.
Okay.
I'll go with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are not a country music fan. So at least I don't think you are.
Well, I don't like a lot of the modern stuff. So if you go back and you listen to like Hank Williams or Johnny Cash or Willie Nelson or George Jones or some of those people.
The classic.
Like Tammy Wynette or whatever, all those. I like a lot of those artists. Now,
Okay.
A lot of the modern ones, not as much. No, there are some modern, like maybe bluegrass, like country adjacent artists that I like.
Country-esque.
Yeah, but some of the more modern, like country pop, most of that I don't really get into.
Okay. So you liked kind of country before, like, let's say the 90s or 2000s.
Yeah,
maybe
90s,
even the 80s.
probably. Yeah, 90. Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, this is a new month, and so we're going to get into questions. So we polled the congregation, and we said, "Hey, we did this last year. Submit your questions about life, about theology, about whatever you want." And we'll do our best to talk about them. So today we're going to kick off that. So we've got 5 weeks in July, and we're going to do 5-ish questions, maybe a little bit more. We may wrap a couple into one session. But Pastor Nathan, here we are, July 1st. So why don't you take us into today?
Okay, so our first one that we're going to do, because I am the co-host of this podcast, I get to choose and prioritize these questions. So I'm going to choose one that actually comes from my son, Wallace.
Okay,
so Wallace.
Which is your oldest.
Yep, Wallace is my oldest, and he had this question that we're going to expand on it a little bit, but his question over the dinner table was, Daddy, how many murders are there in the Bible?
Okay. So let me ask you this. This question that came over the dinner table, was it just a random question, or were you guys talking about the podcast?
We were talking about the podcast. Yeah.
Got it.
So that
Okay.
that was his question. So how
All
many
right.
murders? And I stopped to think about it, and I thought, well, I guess I don't know offhand.
Yeah.
So it raised a couple of different questions for me, and I thought, well, I'm not going to read the whole Bible in order to answer this question. Like, it's just not going to be possible for me to do that right now. So I thought, well, I'll Google it. And Google's answer came back like unhelpful.
Okay.
The answer was sort of like, we don't know. There's a range. It depends on how you count them.
Mm-hmm.
So you have, you might have like specific murders like Cain and Abel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that one we know about that.
Yep.
But then there might be other ones like, let's say, Uriah. When David kills Uriah, it is murder, but it's a little bit different because it's not directly at David's hands. Then there's some things like war, like how do we count that?
Right. Yep.
Is the flood a murder? I don't know. If so, then you have a question of like, there's a lot of people, but we don't know precisely how many.
Yeah.
So I basically am answering this for you right now, Wallace, and I'm saying, I don't know. There are quite a few, but it depends on how you count them.
Yeah. Yeah. Wallace, great question. Thank you for kicking off July with a question that stumps your dad.
A real happy one. Yeah, a happy question.
Yeah, and a happy one at that. That's right.
But it did get me thinking about a couple things that I think were kind of interesting. And Wallace, you can tell me later, because I didn't really ask you in the moment, but I don't know what your motivation for this question was. But one thing that it got me thinking about is the fact that in the Bible, sometimes it will depict something or tell the story of a thing happening, but that doesn't mean necessarily that it approves of that thing.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So in the Old Testament, like in the 10 Commandments, we know that thou shalt not murder is a commandment. You're not supposed to do that.
Right.
But the Bible will depict a murder on occasion. Mm-hmm. And the authors of the Bible don't have to step out and be like, hey, here's a depiction of this murder. By the way, it is wrong. Well, everybody knows it's wrong because we've got the commandments. It's kind of understood that is wrong. So that's one of those things that even though the Bible might depict murder and a bunch of other different things that are bad, it doesn't necessarily mean that it approves of those things or that those things are good or anything like that.
Yep.
So let me I had two follow-up questions. Okay, that maybe we can kind of talk about. One is this. So is there a difference between murder and killing in war? How would you address that question?
Yeah, and I think that was kind of a follow-up question, maybe even from somebody else, wasn't it? Yeah. Yes, I think there is a difference. I don't know that I can really put into words all the best way to differentiate the two. Mm-hmm. One is you're taking human life for whatever purpose or reason in a murder that you're doing it. The war it's a different set of circumstances. Even, and maybe you're going to get to this, but even the Lord slayed some of those people in front of the Israelites, or allowed the Israelites to slay them. All the ites, the Amalekites, and the
Amorites.
And then the Philistines and all that. So these are God's people carrying out this. He tells them to do it. He gives them permission. He gives them victory. But yet He says, "Do not murder."
Yeah.
Do not. So there is a difference. How would you classify or describe the difference?
So where I would start off with is just recognizing that not every killing is a murder. Mm-hmm. And let me even go away from war for 1 second to illustrate that. There are even laws in Scripture about this where, like, if I'm chopping a piece of wood with an axe, and the axe head flies off the handle and hits the head of the guy behind me.
Yeah.
All right. And he dies. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not a murder.
Right.
That's an accident. Yep. Now, did I kill the guy? Yes. Yep. But not on purpose, not with any intention, not with anything like that. So I think part of what's going on when the Bible commands murder is this idea that you are intentionally coming after somebody. Maybe vengeance is part of it. Maybe you're trying to take the law into your own hand. Yep. Maybe that's a part of it. I think, though, one of the things about war that is different, you're right. So the circumstances are different. But one of the things that's interesting about war is that I think over time, Christians have really wrestled with this question about whether it is good or right to kill in war, or like how do we make that differentiation? Because even in modern day war, we have kind of rules of engagement. So like if you take somebody prisoner, you're not supposed to kill them. Like once they've been taken prisoner, you can't just summarily execute people.
Yeah.
You can kill like in the field of battle, but we have these kind of rules. Like almost once they're prisoner, then it would be murder.
Yeah.
And so then that's a problem.
And people, they're prosecuted for war crimes.
Right.
Wars or something against humanity. I think, isn't it like
Crimes against humanity.
Yeah, crimes against humanity. Isn't it like you want to you're not really supposed to bomb like hospitals,
Right. Or schools or things
schools,
like that. Yeah.
women, children, those kind of things.
Yeah,
Those are kind of the
civilians.
rules of war.
Yeah. So that's one of the things. And it's hard. I think here's one of the reasons I think that Christians have struggled with war and probably should struggle with war a little bit is that, let's say we go to war with, I don't know, let's just pretend we go to war with Russia. All right. Now, are some of our soldiers going to be Christians?
Yep.
Yep. Are some of their soldiers going to be Christians? Probably.
Yep.
So what that ends up being is we may be in situations where we're killing our own brother and sister in the Lord.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a moral situation that I would say, and not that that's a purely hypothetical.
Right.
I understand
Yeah.
that that's what it is. But I think that's part of what has worried people about war is it's like, well, I'm killing someone. It could be my brother and sister, or maybe there's a concern that that person has not come to know the Lord yet. And so in my killing them, even in war, I'm sending them to their final judgment. Oh, that's that's not a good thing. I don't want to do that. So I think that that's one of the questions. I think you're right. There does seem to be a difference between me lying in wait and killing somebody intentionally, my neighbor, getting revenge, taking justice into my own hands. That is different.
Yep.
And sometimes wars are unavoidably necessary. Maybe a country attacks another country and you don't really have a choice.
Right.
You're going to go to war.
It's me or them.
Right.
Yep.
And so sometimes that does happen. So to me, it's kind of an area where I don't think on the field of battle you would classify it as murder.
Right. Yeah.
But I do think it is healthy and good for Christians to wrestle with what's happening on the field of battle.
I think you could even ask the question of what am I fighting for?
Right.
What's the purpose of this?
Right.
And even I think in our laws, there's a difference between murder and homicide, right?
There is, but I don't know what that distinction is.
Yeah. I think there is. And then of course there's manslaughter.
Manslaughter, yeah,
as well.
Yeah.
But I think, let me ask you this question. What about in the case of self-defense?
Yeah, so self-defense to me seems pretty obvious. There would be gray areas to that probably. Like, do I need to defend myself and kill you if you're coming at me with a fork and you're saying you're going to kill me? Probably I don't need to shoot you or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes self-defense is one of those things where, yes, obviously there may be instances where that has to happen. I think those instances are probably more rare than we think they are.
And maybe that can even be classified into the discussion of war. I mean, it's self-defense, self-preservation, me or him. I'm going to go home to my family.
Right.
So
yeah, okay. I think sometimes with self-defense, like for you and me, and for most of us, we are never probably going to encounter a situation where we have to defend ourselves to the point of killing a person.
Hopefully not. Yeah.
Right. And I also think some people might not agree with me. I would say, like, if somebody's broke into my home and they're stealing my TV set, I'm not going to kill them for that. Like, you know what I mean? It's just not... That stinks. That's upsetting. It's frustrating. They've sinned against me, all that type of stuff. I don't want to take their life for that.
Yep.
Now, like if somebody was like attacking me or my children or my wife, okay, maybe then.
Yeah.
And I know that in those situations you're thinking not like with a calculated philosophical brain.
Yeah.
You're thinking
reaction
like,
in the moment.
You know, like this is happening right now. What am I going to do? But those are things that I would probably think about. I think sometimes what we classify as self-defense, I don't know.
Well, and even in a court, sometimes people plead self-defense and it's approved, and other times it's not.
Not, yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a good question. I mean, I would probably just say, assuming the self-defense is legitimate and necessary, no, we wouldn't classify that as a murder.
Right.
The other question that's out there that we haven't addressed yet, but let's go ahead and put this on the table,
Okay.
is capital punishment.
Okay.
So how do we think about capital punishment? Some Christians really reject it.
Yep.
Some don't. What are your kind of thoughts on that for the moment?
I have always been in favor of capital punishment. When I was younger, it wasn't even a question. I wouldn't even consider another.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even wrestle with it.
For certain crimes or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. As I've gotten a little bit older, I have wrestled with it a little bit.
Okay.
But I still would be in favor of supporting capital punishment.
Yeah.
It's biblical. There are examples of it within the Bible, obviously. And I don't think for every crime, but I think certain crimes are so egregious that that would be the way to go. Now, there could be somebody that can make a good argument, again, that would make me like kind of back up and think about it.
Yeah.
And I have. I've thought about it, I've wrestled with it, but I still come down on, no, I think that in certain situations, certain crimes, especially repeat offenders, those kind of things, I would be in favor of it.
Yeah, I think the key on that issue, or what people are always going to have to wrestle with, is that it is permissible within the Bible, right? So there are a few different things for which capital punishment is prescribed in the Old Testament. Now, I will say this: some of those things are things that, like, right now we wouldn't do. So maybe there are laws for capital punishment on adultery, different things like that. Now we wouldn't do that. The other thing I think to keep in mind in the Old Testament is that they didn't really have, or probably would not have had, a very sophisticated jail system.
Okay.
So in order to handle certain crimes like murder, like right now, if somebody murders someone, we can lock them away for however long, for a long time at some state prison or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't have those kind of systems in the ancient world. And they don't have the ability to be like, okay, we've got you in here and we're going to take care of you and do all this stuff for the next 20 years. So I think sometimes in the ancient world, that's part of what's going on. Like you have somebody who does a crime that's very egregious, and it's really just not within the power of the state to actually take care of them and imprison them for a long time. So the best thing to do would be a capital punishment. I think I agree. Well, I don't know if I want to use the word agree, but I think we track really well together on at least this part of it. I would probably now say, even though it is permissible, it should be pretty rare. We should look to very egregious crimes. Again, like you said, repeated crimes. So if someone, like a serial killer, okay, I kind of understand why we might put forth capital punishment on that.
Right.
But I also think there's a real goodness to the idea of wanting to rehabilitate people. It's hard to. That doesn't always work. Sometimes people serve a long prison sentence and they get out and they commit that crime again for whatever different reasons. Sometimes it's hard to re-enter regular society and they don't getting work and different things like that. It can be difficult. So, but I do like the idea of rehabilitating somebody, of, hey, you paid your price to your debt to society, and we want you to re-enter society and to live and to, flourish and to be a productive member of society, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that is a good impulse. And so I think for the most part, we should really want that. And I don't think we should reach toward capital punishment if we don't have to.
Yeah. One of the things I struggle a little bit with is when somebody has been convicted and given the death penalty and then sits in jail for 20 years with appeals and court systems. And it's like the drain on everything to do that when
and then at the end of it,
when the judge has spoken, the jury has spoken, this is the sentence.
Yeah.
In my opinion, if this is your sentence, it should be carried out pretty quickly
serve it,
instead of like, well, you're gonna be on death row for 20 years. And
Yeah.
So that's something that I don't like, but that wasn't the question. I just thought I'd
No, and I understand that. I think part of it too is if you're on death row, there have been instances, maybe not a lot, but there have been instances where people have been exonerated.
Yeah, very few.
And
but
then
yeah,
it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, glad we didn't literally pull the trigger on that. Yeah.
So those are situations that I think are hard morally, and so it's permissible. I just think probably rare.
Yeah.
If we can
But
make it rare.
Not long ago, Samantha and I watched, it was like a mini series on the capture of the Green River Killer.
Oh, okay.
And it was a guy who back starting in like the 70s into the early 80s. And then I think maybe even in like to the 90s.
Yeah.
He out in Washington State, he killed like 30 some people.
Yep.
And I think a situation like that is a no-brainer in that situation. But
and that's one of those things. So some people don't really understand that in the Old Testament, when it says an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, hand for hand, all that type of stuff, the judicial principle there is that the punishment should meet or match the crime, not exceed it. Right. So if I steal a pencil from your office, my hope is that you don't cut off my hand.
Yeah.
That would be overkill.
But I could steal a pencil from yours.
Or I might have to pay you back with 10 pencils or something, whatever.
Okay.
But it's not, we don't want punishments to exceed or unduly punish someone, whatever.
Yep.
But when you have those things, like somebody murders multiple people, then it's like, well, that punishment does kind of directly fit the crime.
Yep.
So that's something to wrestle with too.
And I would say this, if there's an accidental death, I don't know that person should pay with their lives because like you've said, accidents happen.
Right.
But the intentional intent of murder, at least first degree murder, planned out, I'm going to do this, to me, that kind of warrants at least the discussion, if not the carry out of that. But that's my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's kind of, we did a little discussion about murder today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wallace, for getting us
Yes,
in
Wallace,
on that
good job.
subject.
Woo. And then Lisa Smith also submitted a question kind of along those same lines. Did we hit answer her question as well?
I believe hers was about war.
Yeah, I think it was too. Okay.
Yeah.
So Lisa, thank you for your submission as well.
Yeah. And if we didn't answer your question to your satisfaction, you can ask us again in person.
That's right.
We'll do it.
That's right. Well, Pastor Nathan, thank you for leading that. Wallace, thank you for submitting that question. Lisa, thank you for your follow-up question. Before I pray and let you go, just a couple of things that I wanted to tell you at the beginning that I forgot is that don't forget Vacation Bible School is coming up next week, July 6th through the 10th. So that's coming up. And this coming Sunday, July 5th, there will be lunch after church for those that are going to stay and help decorate. And so Sunday after church, we're going to be transitioning the church into the theme for Bible school, and the Bible school is the 6th through the 10th. So don't forget about that. Also, the District Power Rally, July 12th, 6:30 p.m. at Parkway Wesleyan Church. That is coming up as well. So just want to remind you guys about that. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for listening. Let me pray with you before I let you go. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for our listeners. God, thank you for this question and the time with Pastor Nathan to discuss it. Lord, thank you that you are the God of life. And God, we thank you that we can turn to your word for difficult questions and look to examples and most of all, what you want for us. So God, I pray that you would lead us and guide us as Christians to think about these things critically and not to jump to emotional conclusions, but God, to seek your advice on what to do. God, the black and white of murder is very clear. It's no. But Lord, some of these other things, they're a little more difficult to come to grips with and to understand. And so God, I pray that you would just give us your spirit and your wisdom as we think and wrestle and even discuss those with other people. God, be with our people, our listeners today, and draw them closer to you, and may they walk in the power of the Spirit. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks for joining us. Same time, same channel next week. Keep rolling, Emmanuel.